Welcome to a new episode of my YouTube tutorial on how to create a classic Metroidvania game in Unity. In the last episode we created an enemy. Today we want to add an attack movement to the player, for he can attack the enemy and kill the enemy. In further episodes we will add an health system to our player, so he can be attacked by the enemy and he can die when, for example, he falls down from a platform. But let us start with the attack animation for our player. In one of the more earlier versions, when we added the player to the game, we also added some animations. We find them under sprites and under player. Here we have attack number 1 and attack number 2. But let's stick for attack number 1. It seems to be a quite quick attack, and later attacks with different patterns we can add later into the game. So at first let us create an animation. We have to go to the inspector of the picture of the sprite. We have to set the sprite mode to multiple. We have to set the filter mode to point no filter. We will apply this one. Then we will go to the sprite editor. Then we will slice the sprite into grid by cell count. And we have four cells. Let's slice this one and then we hit apply and we leave the sprite editor. Now we have 4 separate frames for this animation. We select these 4 different sprites and drop it on our screen. Then we have to save the animation in animations. We will call this animation player attack 1. Let's us save this. So now you can delete the animation controller attack 1_0. We don't need this one. And then we go into the animation controller for the player animations. Maybe you can remember this could be familiar to you if you watched some of the earlier episodes. Now let's add the attack animation in here. So we have to create a trigger. We call that trigger attack trigger, and then let's us draw the connections for that animation. So we make a transition from the player idle animation to the player attack animation. We don't need any exit time and we use the attack trigger as condition. We add the same transition from all other animations here. So let's just copy this process. And for the final step we need to add transitions from the player attack animation to the player run animation. So we do it this way. And for that we need the exit time, and we add the condition for the idle animation that running is false. And to the player run animation we set the condition to running is true. This was one step. So now let's jump into the inputs folder, and there we open the level controls, and you can see our old movements were jumping, running, map and map movement. We will add an action here. We will call this action attack 1. And in this action we ensure that the action type is button. In the binding we say which key we want to use from the keyboard. I would like to use E key. since it's close to WASD. And also here in the interactions, we have to set press, since we want one attack when we pressing the key. With that, we save this asset and we jump into our player script. So let's add two bool variables in our player script. We will need one bool attack active and another bool attack pressed, which should be false in its initial status. Also, let us add the bool attack GP. The next step is to add the onAttack class function, the onAttack function, where depending on the triggers or the actions that are triggered, the variable attack GP becomes true. Also, let's call a new function here. The function will be called attack1. And then we have to create this function, of course, as well. So let us write void attack1. In the function attack1, let us insert following lines. We start with an if question for if attack GP is correct. That's the case if the level controls trigger the action attack1. If this is the case, we ask if the attack is pressed already, and if the attack is active. If both is false, we both set true and we give the player animation attack trigger. Also, if the if statement isn't true, then we know that attack isn't pressed. Also, you have to add an if question that checks if the player animator is playing the attack animation. If that is the case, we set the bool attack active to true, and if that isn't the case, we set the attack active false. So we can't trigger an additional attack if we already are playing an attack. Also, let's go to our player and then scroll down onto the player inputs. And here we go to the events. And if you go to the events, unfold the player action map, and then you can see here we have the jumping function, the running, the map function, and the map movement. And now we have an additional action called attack1. And then we have here to hit the plus. So we have to insert the player here, and then we have to select the function from player script on attack. And now we can test the game, and we see we can hit the attack. So that was it for today. I added the attack animation to the player. In the next episode of this tutorial, we will add a health system to the enemy so that the enemy can be attacked. This will look something like this. And at the end he will die. So we will do that in the next episode, and I hope we will see again, and thank you so much for watching, and I would really enjoy it if you give the video a like or hit the subscription button. See you again.